Alright, hello everyone out there in YouTube land. I just decided to do a quick video today on how to winterize your bike. I know not everybody can get out and ride every day, and some of you live in areas that probably already got snow. So, not a fan of riding in snow myself. So, when you do have to put your bike up for the winter time, there's some things that you need to definitely take into account. First things first, fuel. What I like to do, top up the tank all the way. That way you don't leave a big gap for moisture to collect in there. Um, and use some kind of fuel stabilizer. Whether you use stable or seafoam or something like that, you're going to need something in there that will keep the fuel from degrading, especially with the ethanol additives that they have in the fuel. That'll help it retain moisture and degrade the fuel quicker. So that's something you want to look out for there. Second, coming around this side, you're going to see what I've got on my guy right here. I got this little plug for a battery tender. Um, Definitely recommend installing one of these guys. Um, Go ahead and hook it up to a battery tender. Not super expensive stuff. You can get them on Amazon or whatever. I just use the battery tender brand one, but this is just a little plug that's zip tied on here to the frame, so it's easy to get to. But it's wired right to the battery under the seat. That way I don't have to pull the seat off all the time too. That's one thing that I definitely recommend, that just because it becomes kind of a pain pulling the seat off, getting it stowed somewhere, or leaving it off somewhere. It just kind of gives the opportunity to lose pieces and stuff like that. The other thing to remember too is if you do have an exposed airbox at all, I know on this bike it's not necessarily an issue because it's got a little snorkel under this guy here. But if you have something that has access to it, plug it up. Especially if you're keeping your bike in a shed, a garage, something like that. You will get rodents trying to make nests wherever they can. That being said, too, another thing that I like to do is stick something to plug up your exhaust. Even though maybe a rodent can't necessarily climb in there unless it's a little mouse, I have found instances where if you have little guys running around, they like to store food and stuff like that. So you don't want to end up with, acorns and whatever else stuck in your exhaust over the winter time. The other thing that I do once you get the bike set where you want it, and I have obviously got a center stand on this one. I put it on the center stand here just to get the tires unweighted. That way you don't end up with some sort of flat spot. Typically you'll pick up the back tire, especially on this bike. Obviously depending on what bike you have and what the geometry is like, it might be different for you. But I try to at least, if it picks up the back tire, obviously put something under the front tire, a piece of cardboard, wood works, something like that. Just to kind of balance things out, and you don't want to go for a ride come next season with a flat spot on your tire. It's no fun and makes a bunch of noise. So those are just kind of a few tips that I have as far as putting your bike up for the winter time. If you think of anything else, definitely let me know. Put it in the comments below. But hopefully this will help some of you guys out there, maybe new riders, or some people that maybe even moved to some place that gets a little too cold in the wintertime, and you want some tips on how to stow your bike, either in a garage or I would say try not to do it outside, just because the elements can wreak havoc on these things. You know what, that actually reminds me of one more thing. Bonus tip: do not cover the bike, even if you have it, especially if you have it in like a shed or something like that. That will invite more rodents than it keeps things out, because what that'll do is, you're basically making a small rodent condo or a winter apartment for them. So they will get under there, and then they'll start chewing stuff up, wreaking havoc on it. And that's a big thing, because they want to find somewhere warm and cozy too. and you know, the nooks and crannies in your bike are kind of a welcome area for them to be. So keep that in mind too. I don't recommend covering the bike. Maybe if you're going to leave it outside for a little bit, but if at all possible, you know, put it in somewhere if you can, just because even outside, the rodents are going to get under there and chew stuff up eventually, and you don't want to have to chase down electrical gremlins next season. If you do have a garage, I mean, obviously this is my garage here, and I have some space. Even if you're not riding the bike, if you have the capacity to start it up maybe once a month and just let it get to operating temperature, that helps too. You know, it's one of those things that it helps cycle the fluids through, get it warmed up so that it's not sitting for quite so long, not at operating temperature. And then one final thing I didn't think of, because this doesn't even pertain to my bike particularly, but if you do not have a fuel injected bike like mine, if you have a carbureted bike, I always empty out the carburetor float bowls. Don't let fuel sit in there. Even with stabilizer, I try not to let it sit in there, just because you know, it's one of those things that you're inviting more issues than you're preventing at that point, I think. But if you do leave the fuel in the bowls, definitely start your bike every couple weeks or so. Just those needle jets and stuff can come up really fast, even with some kind of stabilizer or whatever. But I would recommend just leaving them dry. Just empty them out. There's usually a screw in the bottom of the bowl and a little nipple. You can put a hose onto the nipple and just crack the screw open, and it'll empty out all of the fuel that's in there. Obviously with your fuel switch off, you're going to want to do that so it doesn't refill. But then that way you don't have to worry about all of that nasty gunk varnish and stuff like that might build up. But I think that's it. Just want to make a quick one for you guys. I've been asked this question a few times now, so I wanted to make sure everyone had at least some information on how to put a bike up for the winter time. I'm hoping that I'll be riding this guy throughout the winter unless it snows. It doesn't snow a ton here, but when it does, it's definitely what keeps me off the road. Other than that, I will be riding when it gets real cold. Looking at probably getting some heated grips with this guy pretty soon too. So keep looking out for those videos. If I do get the heated grips, I'll do an install video just to show everybody kind of what it looks like to put those on. And again, if you guys like the video, definitely give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are interested in future content. And everybody, have an awesome day. Get out and ride out there.